Welcome to class 3, and we're on chapter 4 because last week we did 2 chapters. The first week we did chapter 1, last week we did chapters 2 and 3, tonight we're on chapter 4. Just to review, this is Untitled Chapter Chasidus. It's all about what is the essence of the teachings of Chasidus. So we started off and we offered 4 possible explanations of what Chasidus might be. We won't go through that again. You could review the previous 2 classes and we talk about that at length. We said those are all nice aspects of Chasidus, but they're not the essence of Chasidus. The essence has to be some core idea that is beyond any pratim, beyond any details, right? It's not any one of those things, and it's not even the combination of all of those things. It is something beyond all of those things. It's the essence, whatever that means. And then we spoke about the fact that Torah is infinity, and as being infinity, it can't be limited to take on a form that makes it one thing and not another thing, because that itself is a concealment of its limitation. So therefore, we're searching for the underlying essence that is that transcends all limitations or all form. And we haven't found it yet, but that's what we're looking for. Okay, so now we're on chapter 4. Bir Mohusa shel Teres Chasidus. An explanation of what the essence of Chasidus really is. Yuvhar al yidei bir toichne apnimi shel Meshiach will be clarified by explaining what is the real inner idea of Meshiach. Okay, why? What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? We were talking about the essence of Chasidus, and now you said you want to understand the essence of Chasidus. You have to understand the toichen pnimi, the inner idea of Meshiach, not just the idea of Mashiach, but the toichen pnimi, the inner idea of Mashiach. Okay, well, how did you get to Mashiach? Where's that coming from? Ki mischara shel mitzvah neida mohusa. There's a principle, it's actually from the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, Perek Lamed Tes, chapter 39, that from the schar of a mitzvah, you can know its essence. Basically the idea of, if you want to know what something really is, look at the outcome. Look at what it accomplishes. So when we look at the schar of a mitzvah, and by the way, we don't have time to get into this discussion because because we have a lot to cover, but there are 2 different ways of looking at schar, at reward. One of them would not be helpful in this context. That's arbitrary reward. Like the kindergarten teacher tells the children, color in the coloring sheets, and if you draw within the lines, we'll give everyone a piece of candy. Drawing in the lines does not generate a piece of candy. There's actually no cause and effect relationship. It's an arbitrary consequence, not even really a consequence, a pseudo-consequence that the teacher superimposed into the situation. We're talking about here about organic reward. So you do something that makes the world godlier, and the schar, the reward is you live in a godlier world, right? Okay. So by looking at the reward that something generates, you can actually understand better what that thing itself really is. All right, fine. So what does that have to do with Mashiach? Umekeven asher al yedei afatzas mayones achsidis osimar do malka Mashiach. Since we know that through disseminating the wellsprings of Chasidus, it brings the coming of Mashiach. How do we know that? It's a famous letter that the Baal Shem Tov wrote about his Aliyas and Neshama on Rosh Hashanah. He experienced an out-of-body experience where he went into Gan Eden and he met the Neshama of Mashiach, and he asked, "Hey, Mosai Kasima," right? When is the Master coming? And what did Mashiach tell him? L'chishi yafutza meinesecha chutza. When your Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, when your mayonis, wellsprings, meaning your teachings, are disseminated outward. Okay. So we know that the spreading of the teachings of Chasidus results in the coming of Mashiach. Harei min yani shel Mashiach schara Neda es mahusa. Therefore, from Mashiach, which is the result of disseminating Chassidus, we can understand better the essence of Chassidus. You understand here the approach? Understand the formulation? We're trying to understand the essence of Chassidus, not just different details of Chassidus. We want to know what Chassidus really is. So we have this approach that if you want to know what something really is, look at the schar, the real schar, the organic schar, the result that it generates, and then you'll be able to understand it better. Well, the schar, the result of Chassidus is it brings Mashiach. So if I understand Mashiach better, then I will understand Chassidus better. Follow? Yeah, makes sense? Okay. All right, so let's endeavor to understand Mashiach better. Vivias HaMashiach Yischadshu Kama V'Kama Yonim Nailim. When Mashiach comes, many new, wondrous, sublime events will be innovated. Ukamei, for instance, Geulas Yisrael V'Hashchina Mehagolus. The redemption of the Jewish people, as well as the divine presence from their exile. So the first thing is the Jewish people will be redeemed from exile. That means the socio-political exile, the subjugation of the nations. That's the first thing. And also, there's a metaphysical version of that, which is the redemption of the Shekhinah. Hashem's nurturing or maternal presence in the world is in a state of galus. What does it mean it's in a state of galus? It's a very complicated concept. Obviously, when you're speaking about Hashem in galus, that's a very complicated concept, but it gets some people nervous, by the way. You have to say kaviyachol to calm them down. It's a Gemara in Megillah, by the way. Shchinta begalusa, the fact that Hashem's presence is in galus is a Gemara. People get nervous. Oh, the Hasidic concept. It's a Gemara. But anyways, Shchinta begalusa basically means this nurturing maternal energy of Hashem is forced to nurture and mother stuff that it doesn't want to nurture and mother. It is forced to be a source of sustenance for klippa, for negativity. So that's Shchinta begalusa. Anyways, so the first thing that'll happen when Mashiach comes is the Jews and the Shekhinah will go out of galus. L'maylam is that, but greater than that, Yil Yisrael, and here he's quoting from the Rambam, from the very end of Mishnah Torah. Yil Yisrael chachamim gedelim v'yedim devarim hasasumim v'yesigo das beidam chulu mala ha'aretz de'as havaya chulu. The Jewish people will be great sages. They will understand the mind of their Creator. Wow. And the whole world will be full of knowledge of God. So that's even greater than just a sociopolitical change. This is actually created beings having godly knowledge. L'maylam is that, and even greater than that, I'll tell you even more. Shinui v'chidush b'maaseh v'reishis, there will actually be a change in the nature of the world. Now a little bit of a parenthesis, answering a question. What about the fact that the Gemara says there's no difference between the world now and the way the world will be in the Messianic era, except for the socio-political change, except for the end of subjugation by the nations? How do you explain that? Because we just said that there will be a supernatural change when Mashiach comes. So the Rebbe explains, Hu rak b'tchilas hazman shel yimei Mashiach. Yeah, we're talking about the beginning of the era of Mashiach. So at the beginning, it will only be a socio-political change, freedom from exile, and later the miraculous stuff will happen. Especially according to what it says in Raya Mehemna, which is a section of the Zayar. This idea that there will be no supernatural change right away when Mashiach first comes, the supernatural changes will come later. This applies to the Ami Ha'aretz, the ignorant folk. They will not experience a change in miracles, but the Talmidei Chachamim, those who are cleaving to Hashem, they will experience miracles even earlier on. At any rate, so we're talking about different things that will happen when Mashiach comes. There will be an end to the exile, both for the Jewish people and for the Shekhinah. The Jewish people will become great sages because they will have knowledge of God. And then that the second thing is greater than the first. And then the third thing, even greater than that, there will be supernatural changes, change in nature, change in the natural order. Okay. What will happen is that the godliness that is higher than nature will then be revealed. Right now, godliness that's higher than nature is not revealed. It's hidden within nature. That's why when Mashiach comes, we're going to read Hashem's name as it's written. Right now we hide it by not pronouncing it the way it's spelled. It's spelled Yud Ke Vav Ke. We don't pronounce it that way. We pronounce it as if it were spelled Aleph Daled Nun Yud. But we will be able to pronounce it. Not just we'll be able to pronounce it, we'll know how to pronounce it. Don't think you know how to pronounce it. No, it's not like those witnesses, the witnesses I'm talking about, who think they know how to pronounce it. No, it's not pronounced that way. Okay. Because there will be a revelation of Hashem's true name of Yud Ke Vav Ke in the world. And what is Yud Ke Vav Ke? Haya was, Haiva is, Yiyeh will be. That is the transcendent God who cannot be nailed down to past, present, and future because he's all those things at once. Hashem, as he transcends time and space, similar to the revelation that was in the Beis Hamikdash. There was a revelation of godliness in the Beis Hamikdash that also transcended time and space. For instance, the ark did not take up space, but it did take up space. But it'll even be greater when Mashiach comes because the transcendence of time and space that existed in the times of the Beis Hamikdash was only in the Beis Hamikdash. When Mashiach comes, the transcendence of time and space will occur in the entire world. Okay. So we just said a bunch of things that will happen when Mashiach comes. The end of the socio-political exile, the end of the metaphysical exile, meaning the galus of the Shechina, the fact that the Jewish people will understand the mind of God to the extent that they're capable of. It's pretty wild. And then ultimately a change in the natural order. And the change in the natural order, another way of describing that is that Hashem, as he transcends space and time, will be revealed within space and time. How do you like that paradox? That Hashem, as he is Haya, Haiva, V'yeh, was, is, and will be revealed within time and space. But let's continue. What we just described will not only take place in this world, it'll take place in all worlds, all systems of reality. Why? How do you know? Because the way the upper worlds operate is all based on the way the lower world operates. So if there's going to be this massive change when Mashiach comes, there's going to be this massive change in this world, it really means there's going to be a massive change in all worlds. Even the higher worlds, even the highest heavens will experience this massive revelation that they've never had before. Wow. For instance, an example of how something that happens in this world affects all worlds. They establish Rosh Chodesh, which therefore affects the dates of the Yomim Tovim. They establish it in the human court. Now, we don't do it every month like they used to do it, but nevertheless, the calendar we use is a human calendar. It's a calendar that was made up down here by human beings. And yet, when the calendar is set by humans down in this world, that creates a reality even in the heavens, because in heaven, it's different on Rosh Chodesh. In heaven, it's different on Yom Tov. And yet, the date that they have to follow in heaven, even in the highest heavens, for when is Rosh Chodesh and when is Yom Tov, they have to look what we're doing down here because we establish it down here in the lowest world. That when there is a Yom Tov, there's an extra added light in the spiritual worlds. And that happens because of a decision that's made down here. Shehu kefi oifen kviyusam lamata. The Yom Tov takes place on the day that is established down here in the physical world. And since when Mashiach comes, the world, this world, and all of its details will change. There will be a concomitant change in all of the worlds. Okay, so we just said something pretty wild. We said when Mashiach comes, there will be an end of the socio-political exile, there will be an end of the metaphysical exile. All the Jews will have knowledge of God, and the world will be full of the knowledge of God. There will be a change, a miraculous change in the order of nature, and a revelation of Hoya Hoya V'Yia in time and space, and that will affect all worlds, even the highest heavens. Wow! All that stuff's going to happen when Mashiach comes. You want to know something? However, Achrei Kolonal, after all that, Kol Inyanim Elu, all those things, Af Shagol V'Ravo Iliv Flaw Shebehem, even though they are great and wondrous, Einem Ela Histafos Mindukudase Ha'ikra Shel Mashiach. They're all just symptoms of the real essence of Mashiach. None of those are the essence of Mashiach. They are just symptoms. See, this is a theme, maybe the theme of Kuntrus and Yonesh Teres HaChassidus. Trying to get down to essence. And the essence is when you can't get any deeper, when you get behind every cause of every cause, and you go to the core, that is essence. So all of these incredible things we just described, they are things that will happen when Mashiach comes, but they are not the essence of Mashiach. They are reflections of the essence, they are manifestations of the essence, but they're not the essence. Just like we were talking before at the very beginning of the Maimer, we said that there are the different qualities of Chasidus. So we said, well, those are all symptoms of Chasidus, but none of them are the essence of Chasidus. Okay. So what is the essence of Mashiach, pray tell? Because remember why we're trying to find out the essence of Mashiach. Because we said if we can pinpoint the essence of Mashiach, it'll help us pinpoint the essence of Chasidus. Why? Because from the schar of something you could know what it is. The schar of Chasidus is when you spread out the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov of Chasidus, the Mashiach comes. So then, therefore, if I can understand Mashiach, I'll understand Chasidus. Okay, fine. All right. With me. Yeah? All right. Chapter 5. Trying to get down to the essence of Mashiach, so that we can get down to the essence of Chasidus. Inyanei yikri shel Mashiach hu yechida. You want to know what the essence of Mashiach is? The essence of Mashiach is yechida. Oh, what's yechida? Yechida is a level of the soul, but it's not a level. Okay, fine. So that helps. All right. We're going to have to learn about yechida. If we can properly understand yechida, everything's going to fall into place. Let's continue. Ki yadua shedavad zachal bechinas nefesh, Elio leruach, Meisha leneshama, Adam rishon lechaye, uMashiach yizke liyechida. There are 5 levels of the soul: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaye, yechida. Different personalities throughout history are related to these different levels. So that you have David HaMelech is related to Nefesh, or the perfection of the Nefesh. Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet is Ruach. Moshe Rabbeinu is Neshama. Adam Rishon is Chaya. Mashiach will be the manifestation of Yechida. Okay. What we've established here is that there's a relationship between Mashiach and Yechida. And by the way, this idea is a Kabbalistic idea. It is it's from Kabbalah and brought in Chasidus. Okay, so let's talk about Yechida. Mailas Yechida al dalet ha-bechinas nefesh ruach neshama chaya b'chamisha madregas shel kol neshama. The advantage of the Yechida over the other 4 levels of the soul is what? Dalet ha-bechinas nefesh ruach neshama chaya he madregas pratius. The first 4 levels, which we call Nefesh and Ruach and Neshama and Chaya, are specific levels. Ubechinas Yechida hi etem Neshama shalamayla megeda pratim kishma. Yechida, however, is the essence of the soul, etem Neshama, which is above any specific categories, as its name indicates. The name Yechida, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So there's really not 5 levels because only 4 of the levels are levels. The 5th is not a level, it is the essence of the soul. Although from the Yechida comes forth the 4 levels, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Ein zeh shebechinas hayechida hi begeder makar uklal pratim elu. Yet you cannot think of yechida as the source of the four. In other words, don't think of yechida is like the aggregate or the conglomerate of all of these things, and then you pick off of it different aspects, and then here's the nefesh, and here's a ruach, and here's a neshama, and here's... That's not how it works. In yechida, you do not find parts. Although all the parts or levels come from it, it is not the sum total of the parts, or even the source of the parts in the sense of being like a super level. Like those are the four levels, and it is the super level from what that all the levels are taken from. It's not how it works. And we said its name implies that. Let's talk a little bit about its name. Ki loshen yechida meira al achdus pshuta hamushlelas me'eze shehi shayches lepratim. The name yechida itself indicates that it does not lend itself to detailed categorization. Gam geder makil lepratim. It's not even a source of details. Not only does it not have details in it, it is not a source for details. As is known, the difference between yachid and echad, we refer to Hashem as both yachid and echad. They're both true. They both describe certain realities about Hashem. When we say that, in the heavens and the earth, it's all Hashem, Hashem is echad. Right? So it doesn't matter if it's spiritual or it's material, Hashem echad. But you're still referring to the fact that there are heavens and there are earth, and there is earth. You're still talking about the fact that there is creation. When we refer to Hashem as yachid, as the sole existence, there's no heavens, there's no earth, there's no nothing. There's just Hashem, yachid. So yechida is from that word, or related to that word yachid. It's not that, yechida is bigger than and encompasses all the other four parts. No. When you're talking about yechida, there are no parts. There's no parts. Parts don't exist. Yechida is not one of the four parts. It's not the source of the parts. It is the nekuda atzmis, the essential point of the soul. And yet, the other four parts come from it. Now, I understand it sounds like we're contradicting ourselves, because we're saying they don't come from it, but they do come from it. So what are we saying here? What we're saying is, we're going to have a metaphor for this later on, and I don't want to spoil it. So let's, we got to allow there to be some suspense. But let's just suffice it to say right now, we're grappling with, perhaps you call it a paradox, something that seems to be a contradiction. But this paradox is indicative of the very nature of essences. Something that's an essence has no details, it's not even the source of details, and yet all details can be traced to it. Now, if you're thinking a step ahead, you're probably remembering what we said last week about Torah, that you could take all the isms and the ologies in the world and put them together, and you don't have Torah, and yet all the truth in all the isms and all the ologies can ultimately be traced to Torah. So if you're thinking like that, you're thinking in the right direction. But let's leave this paradox for now, and we will come back to it at length. Okay? Let's try to wrap up for tonight. Now, just like every individual soul meaning of each person, the yechida is the essence of that soul. Same in all of the worlds. Just like each person has a neshama, and the yechida is the core of that neshama, the world or worlds have a neshama. There's a vitality that runs through all of the worlds. And the core of that vitality is what? It is the essence of vitality of all the worlds, which is the yechida of all the worlds, which is related to the idea of Mashiach in all of the worlds, which is the essence of the vitality which is above being limited to any particular form. U'menekuda zu mistafes kol ma'alos hapratis nefesh ruch neshama chaya de klolos. From that essential vitality of all of the worlds come forth all the different, we call them, we're using the names that we use for the soul, but now we're talking about, say, their shtalshlis, we're talking about the worlds. Those are the four worlds. Asiya, Yetzira, Bria, and Atzilos. And we'll talk about that at length a little bit, the four worlds a little bit later. Actually, we'll talk about that at length. But at any rate, there are four levels of the soul, and then there's the core of the soul, which is called yechida. So too, in hishtalshlis, in the worlds, there are levels, which we call worlds, and then there is the core essence of reality, which is the yechida of the world. And that's related to the idea of Mashiach. How is it related to the idea of Mashiach? We didn't say yet, but we're about to. Okay. Ki etzem hachayis hu bilti mugbal. The essence of the vitality of the worlds is unlimited. It's unlimited. והבלי שלו אינו רק בעניין הנצחיות, שאיננה נתפס בשינוי הזמן, כי כל עצם בלתי משתנה. That unlimited nature of the vitality, the core vitality of reality, is not only manifested in the fact that it is eternal. Of course it's eternal, because if it's an essence, it doesn't change. An essence does not lend itself to details or to be categorized. And one of the biggest categorizations of something is past, present, future. An essence is what it is. It's a constant. It never changes. So the essence of the vitality of the worlds is eternal, non-changing. That's obvious. After you say it, it's obvious. Don't worry. I didn't figure it out on my own either. I'm reading it from here. But that's not the only thing we can say about it. Let me just continue here. There's a parenthetical statement about this. But we're gonna come back and we're gonna say that's true. That's one thing. The essence of the vitality of the worlds is eternal. Okay, and that's true. But that's not. That itself isn't what we're trying to bring out here. All right, but let's continue the parentheses talking about the eternality of the essential vitality of the worlds. In the brackets, this is actually why when Mashiach comes, people will live forever. Right now, what we're living off of is just the spreading forth of vitality, not the actual core of life. Yeshna inyin hamisa, and therefore there's the interruption of life, which we call death. When you're talking about the hispashtus, with the spreading forth, not the real thing itself, so then there can be change, and there can even be interruption. But in the future, when Mashiach comes, then the essence of vitality will be revealed in the world, and therefore everyone will live forever, because essence doesn't change, and the essence of life will not be interrupted. But that's not even the point we're making here. That's not even the point we're making here. Ella, rather, when we say that the essence of life of all the worlds is infinite, we're not just talking about the fact that it can't be interrupted and therefore people will live forever. We're saying something more than that. We're saying qualitatively, I guess, opposed to quantitatively. Quantitatively, talking about like its duration. It doesn't stop, right? But also qualitative, there's quantitative infinity and there's qualitative infinity. Quantitative infinity is it never ends. Qualitative infinity is it can't be broken into parts. It's an interesting definition for infinity that we don't think of often, but it's important to this idea. The infinite nature of the core of vitality, which will be revealed when Mashiach comes, you'll see there's a certain qualitative infinity. Another way of saying that is, it is the ultimate form of perfection. Therefore, When this yechida, the essence of vitality, will be revealed in the worlds, which will happen when Mashiach comes, v'yichyu b'chayes atzmi, and all the worlds will live not from the hispashtus, the spreading forth of vitality, but from the essence of vitality itself, then automatically everything will be as perfect as it is. It is infinity. It is the absolute ultimate of perfection. When it is revealed in the world, there will be ultimate perfection in everything. So what we're saying is this. We describe different things will happen when Mashiach comes. There will be the end of the socio-political gullus. There will be the end of the metaphysical gullus. All the Jews will be great sages. And ultimately, even there will be a change in the natural order. And it'll affect not only the physical world, but all the spiritual worlds. But those are just manifestations. Those are just revelations, reflections. Those are not the essence. Okay, what's the essence? Pray tell. Where's the essence? So we say like this. The essence is, just like in a person, you have nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, but none of that's the essence. The essence of you is your yechida, which cannot be divided into any details. So too, there's an essence of vitality. If you say, what is the world? What is life? What is making reality be? Not what are the various forms of reality as we know it? No, what is the essence behind all reality that makes reality be? That is the yechida, so to speak, of the macrocosm. When Mashiach comes, that will be revealed. And that's why we'll live forever. But more so, that's a quantitative manifestation. The qualitative aspect of perfection that will be revealed. So what is Meshiach? Meshiach is the revelation of yechida in all of the worlds. Or another way of saying that is, Meshiach is when reality as it truly is, the essence of reality, whatever it is, not how it shows itself, not how it manifests itself, but the essence of reality as it is, which is another way of saying God, obviously, will be revealed. And therefore all perfection will also be revealed. And now we're starting to zero in on the essence of Chasidus, because we're zeroing in on the essence of Mashiach, which is yechida. So if yechida is really connected to Mashiach and Mashiach is connected to Chasidus, so how do we understand Chasidus? Through understanding yechida. So far so good? Okay, God willing, we'll continue next week. Thank you very much.